Once upon a time, there was a monk blessed with the gift of healing. He lived a simple life in a monastery far off in the desert. News of his gift traveled far and wide, and many came from distant lands to be blessed by the healing saint, though he did his best to avoid that title, calling himself an unworthy sinner. Then one day, the princess fell ill, and all the physicians of the kingdom were unable to heal her. The king was desperate, fearing for the life of his only daughter, and the future queen of the kingdom. Finally, one of his advisors told the king about the saintly monk, suggesting that he send the princess to the monastery. But the king, as powerful as he was, refused to send his daughter, fearing for her safety, pitying her the hardships of the desert road. Instead of sending the princess, he called upon one of his generals and ordered him to take some soldiers and retrieve the monk from the monastery. The general, seeing his mission as a waste of his abilities, took 20 of his men and marched to the monastery. Exhausted and angry, they arrived at their destination, asking to meet the famous monk. When the abbot was informed of the general's arrival, he asked the monk to meet them without delay. The monk met the general hastily, wearing his simple garment. The general was disappointed, as he expected someone resembling the icons he saw in church. But he had his orders, and he intended to finish his task as quickly as possible. He asked the monk to come with him to the palace, as the king had requested. The monk respectfully refused the general's request, as his monastic law forbade him from traveling to the city. The general became furious. How dare a man in ragged clothes refuse the king's invitation? He told the monk that he had a choice: willingly accompany them to the palace or be taken in chains. The abbot, fearing for the safety of the poor monk and the others in the monastery, gave him permission to go to the palace. The monk asked the abbot for his cross as a blessing, and the abbot graciously agreed. The monk and the contingent of soldiers marched back to the palace. Upon entering the city, he looked up and saw a demon knitting what appeared to be a fishing net. He made the sign of the cross and asked the Lord for protection. They finally arrived at the palace. As they entered the palace, the monk tried to keep his eyes down to avoid seeing the luxuries of royalty, adhering to his monastic lore. But when the chamberlain saw him, he refused to let him enter the princess's room, fearing he might have bugs in his ragged clothes. He ordered the servants to bathe the monk and dress him in new clothes. The monk respectfully refused, saying that he would either meet the princess in his clothes or return to his monastery. But the chamberlain, like the general before him, wouldn't accept no for an answer. So he ordered the servants to forcibly bathe the poor monk. Weak in body, the poor monk couldn't resist the strong servants. They took his clothes and burned them, dressing him in silk garments. The monk was disturbed and annoyed. How could he get back to his monastery? Those people would not let me go, he thought to himself. And even if he managed to escape the palace, what would happen to the sick princess? He prayed to the Lord for guidance, and he finally had an idea. He took the abbot's cross and prayed a healing prayer over it. Then he told the chamberlain that he was hungry, as he hadn't eaten anything since leaving the monastery. The chamberlain ordered a feast to be prepared for the monk. The monk thanked him and gave him the abbot's cross as a gift. He then explained that the abbot was a great saint and that the cross could heal anyone it touched of any sickness. When the feast was prepared, the monk sat at the table and prayed a blessing. He then took a chicken and began stuffing it into his pocket and tried to fill his other pocket with wine. "What are you doing, you stupid, crazy beggar?" shouted the chamberlain. Laughing, the monk said, "You are right, my lord. I am a beggar. It is the first time I have ever seen all that food." I would like to keep as much of it as I could. As he tried to stuff a second chicken under his now dirty new silk robe. In his anger, the chamberlain ordered the servants to throw the monk out, and they gladly obeyed. Fearing the king's anger when he learned about what had happened, the chamberlain decided to try using the abbot's cross to heal the sick princess. And as soon as the princess touched the cross, her fever broke and she regained consciousness. The chamberlain praised the Lord, thanking him for his mercy. The monk, happy that he was able to leave the palace, found some poor people and gave them the food he had stashed in his pockets, then moved toward the city's gate to return to his beloved monastery. As he walked out of the gate, he saw the demon sitting in despair, with the net at his side, ripped and torn. Full of curiosity, the monk asked the demon, "What are your net?" The demon angrily replied, "It is because of your stupidity, you crazy beggar." One must disguise one's gift in order to escape the demonic net of false glory, for there is one thing the devil can neither comprehend nor see through: humility.